G'day folks, welcome to this status report from this playthrough of the campaign game of Barbarossa Army Group Centre. At the start of turn 4 here, and first thing I need to point out is that this is kind of a bit of a rookie experience. I feel like I've got most of the rules, 95%, 99% of the rules down, but I'm still making occasional errors here and there, so don't treat this as kind of an accurate reflection of how the game would normally play out. Experienced players would probably do things very differently. This is very chaotic what's been going on. And this is far from a foolproof playthrough. So basically there's been two main drives. There's been the drive in the south, and I've been trying to kind of head towards Minsk, pushing these rail lines out, driving along this primary road here, clearing that primary road to facilitate supplies through my rail and then road network, and then getting those to the Panzer divisions out on the front who are trying to push through to Minsk. Similar story up in the north, the rail line driving out. I realised just recently that this is a slow rail line to advance, and it takes several turns before it actually reaches Vilnius, and only then does it then connect with that road network. I realised that the Grodno rail network is probably better to support that push. Once Grodno falls, this rail line connects to the primary road, which extends way out here, which really supports my supply network earlier than that northern Vilnius rail network. So I prioritize this extension, this on end of turn 3, to connect to that, to connect to my rail network, so I can now draw supplies all along this road for 21 hexes along that road. Grodno fell, but we're having a lot of trouble down here in Bialystok. 2 hexes, stiff Russian resistance. This is where all the Russians converged into the city hexes. City hex, sorry, it's just one. But putting up stern resistances, I think 12 defense factors in one of these hexes. And it's hard for the Russians, for the Germans, the access to get their forces into that area. That's a victory point lost now because it wasn't captured by the end of turn 3. Similar story with Badanovici over here. The Germans decided not to put pressure on it and instead to advance through and try and bypass Russian units. The Russians are retreating pretty effectively. They've just been able to weave through. You can see we've diverted 2 Panzer divisions up to the north, and Panzer divisions are coming down to the south to try and pin in all these armoured formations that are trying to get out of this pocket. They've been doing so pretty well. They've been using these minor roads along through here, and very close to escaping. So the Panzer divisions had to stop short of Minsk to try and pin them in, because I think if we can stop these Russians linking up with those in Minsk, it denies the Russians a lot of their tank divisions. Long-term benefits there. So there's a bit of a payoff. The other problem is, so then in turn 3, here's Panzer divisions. They're outside Minsk, which is just here. Panzer divisions here, Panzer divisions here. They're outstretching their supply. These titles, so the East Front series, your supplies gradually expand, and well, you either extend beyond those beyond your supply capacity and become out of supply. So I'm on emergency supply at the moment. Or you slow down and stay in supply, which is kind of what's happened in the south. So in the north, I push beyond those supplies to try and get beyond this Minsk border, and then I decide to pull back. Whereas in the south, I've tried to stay within my supply network. So the south has kind of caught up to the northern drive now. And now I face this very difficult decision. Do I try to move beyond Minsk and pocket this whole area? Or do I just try and drive north along this minor road here and pocket the armoured formations? And it's a tough decision to make, because there's still a lot of Soviets in this area, and if I try to push the Panzers too far beyond this area, beyond Minsk, they risk getting cut off. As it stands, I feel like this primary road is only very narrowly being held. And I feel like it's pretty easy for the Russians to just nudge onto it to cut those supplies, to put all those panzer divisions out of supply. So there's a bit of a tension going on amongst sort of German High Command at the moment as to, do we try to encircle Minsk? Do we go for a smaller pocket and just encircle all the Russians west of Minsk? So it's basically drive east of Minsk, risky, form a pocket here, probably the safer option. And if I really focus on this pocket here, I put all these Soviet units here out of supply, including these down here in the south here. They've been gradually moving to the east. And yeah, well, they're only, 8 hexes away from this area here. Some of them are out of supply. These are out of supply Soviets. But some of them, last turn, they could draw supply. And I think this turn, they may well be out of supply this coming turn. I'll have to double check all that. But I think the Germans have kind of cut the Soviet rail networks in most places. So yeah, I think they'll be on emergency supply now. These guys will go to out of supply. So, okay, the 2nd Army, 4th Army, 9th Army, the infantry, they're slow. They were the ones who were meant to form this pocket. But it's hard to do because the Russians are gone. It's the end of day 3 and the Russians are out of that pocket. So I don't know. Again, experienced players will probably comment on how you get that done. Do you send a panzer division or 2 to lead and then follow it through with the infantry? I've tried to focus all of the panzer divisions in this eastern drive. Maybe I should have cut through earlier, shifted up north through this sort of open terrain here and cut them off here. They found it too easy to escape that pocket. And so the infantry, the advanced elements of the infantry are kind of here, Rozhany, and around here. But there's nothing left to pocket, pretty much. There's a garrison here in Bialystok. Grodno's been reduced, there's nothing left there. And there's a couple of scattered units over here. Not a strong Russian force basically left in that pocket. So it isn't quite the big Bialystok pocket of 1941. Having said that, so that the flip side of that is that the infantry is advancing quite a fair way east. They're right behind, in fact, some of them are really close, right behind the panzer divisions. So what that means is, because we're not driving north, we're driving east along these primary roads, it means the infantry will be able to reach Minsk earlier, and hopefully they'll be able to help break that Soviet line, which is already beginning to form. So over near Minsk, you can see that this Soviet line, this is where they're forming their new defences. There's a fortified line through here. It's kind of a bit soft on the far north and the far south. So this is where the panzers can come in, potentially. There's a defence of 4 here, defence of 3 there. You pretty much clear terrain with no modifiers for now. So if, for example, this 3rd Panzer Division wanted to drive through, they could basically. They could potentially overrun here. What could they do? 1, 2, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. They could engage in combat here and exploit. They could 1, 2, 3. They could go on. They could be on the outskirts of Minsk at the end of the next German mechanized movement phase if they wanted to. Now Minsk is worth quite a lot in terms of victory points, but it needs to be captured by the end of turn 5, which gives me 2 turns to get around these Soviet defences. They've formed a pretty solid line through here. They've brought a lot of their forces up into that fortified line. The Soviets have been defending through here. There were Soviet positions here which were destroyed. It's been a bit of a back and forth battle around here. So there's been a lot of fighting in this kind of area. What's going to happen here? That's going to have to be a battle. I can't overrun there. So yeah, we're at a point now where the offensive is kind of starting to slow down. I will point out as well. So I put a little green marker way up the top here. This is where a new German supply line opens up from turn 4 onwards. So from next turn, this primary road becomes available for road supply up to this point. I've already put the road net marker there just as a reminder for me of where that reaches to. So the Germans have 7 hexes beyond there to draw supply. It doesn't reach Minsk, so they can they'll get supplies next turn. They'll remove those emergency supply markers, and then I think, what do? They try and drive on Minsk, try and smash through very quickly before their supplies run out. I will point out as well, it's worth noting, the southern rail network is advancing faster. So this one will advance to here, next turn, which will extend my road network out additional 6. So my road network out here might extend to here, which will give me supplies to about here, which is closer to Minsk. Then, well, it's about the same. But yeah, basically what happening now is supplies are shaping my strategy and shaping my thinking. Supplies and this big pocket of Russian armor. There's a pretty strong pocket there. There are several. There are at least 4 tank divisions in this area, at least 4, plus some infantry divisions. There's a lot of Russians just in here. And I think that needs to be a priority for the Germans, but if they do that, maybe they lose Minsk. Yeah, I don't know. So that's what I'm faced with at the moment. This tension over what to do. I will point out as well that the Russians launched a counterattack through here, and I think it's the 18th Motorized Division were absolutely smashed. I think they lost 3 steps in this counterattack, which is horrific. I'll also point out the Germans have lost a lot of steps. They've suffered a lot of casualties through poor rolls in combat. Anyway, so that's where we are, heading into turn 4. More to come soon.